Number 865, Sirfetch'd, the wild duck Pokemon. Only Farfetch'd that have survived many battles can attain this evolution. When this Pokemon's leek withers, it will retire from combat.
So that's in like 3 days, right?
Yeah, real quick on this one. Very, very short lifespan. Hey, what's your first impression here, Ange?
Honestly, there's a lot going on in the base image of Sirfetch'd. It's got a shield, it's got this giant leek sword kind of thing, but what really stands out for me are the eyebrows. They're very bold and an entirely different colour than the rest of its feathers, and that's just a little bit startling for me, to be honest.
Yeah, it's got a really smug look on its face that's contributed to by these eyebrows. And you're right that they're just pitch black compared to the rest of it, which is just hilarious. Yeah, eyebrows, I definitely agree. My word for this Pokemon is chivalrous. Now, chivalry is defined as trying to appear noble for one's personal gain. And I think that Sirfetch'd leans heavily into this. God, look at that smug look on its face. It's just I'm so good. I open the door for women, for Madam Fetches.
I don't think it's even that. I think it's I would open the door for Madam Fetches if I wasn't holding a sword and a shield in either arm.
I'm full. But I totally would have done it.
I'd fight for you and stuff, but my legs withering. Oops.
Yeah. Okay, so, Ange, there's a story you absolutely have to know about this Pokemon and its origin.
Please tell me.
Yeah. So before every new Pokemon game, the head directors and stuff go to the country that they want to base that game on. And so this time they went to England for the development of Sword and Shield.
Right.
While they were there, they noticed that the leaks in England were much bigger than the leaks in Japan and decided that that was a pertinent thing to base a Pokemon around. And that is why they decided there had to be a Galarian Farfetch'd that evolved into Sirfetch'd, because they had to express that the leaks are just so much bigger in England.
What the fuck?
It's a really, really good story. I wish I'd made it up, because that'd have been really funny, but unfortunately it's just true. It's really weird though, because also Sirfetch'd can be seen as somewhat as of a flagship Pokemon for Sword and Shield. It shows off that they're adding Galarian evolutions and is literally holding a sword and a shield.
True.
Yeah,
But other than that, I've played Pokemon Shield. I never caught a Sirfetch'd. Even when I was trying to fill out the Pokedex, I've never been enthused about Sirfetch'd, about Farfetch'd.
It's also quite hard to evolve, by the way. It's one of the most
Yeah, you have to win so many battles.
And then its leak just withers after 3 days.
Just withers.
And it's just sorry, your Sirfetch'd is retired from combat.
Yeah, I should have kept it in the fridge. I'm going to give Sirfetch'd 2 out of 5 stars.
I'm going to give it 3 out of 5.
All right, that brings us to 5 out of 10 stars.
Next!
Number 229, Houndoom, the dark Pokemon. Long ago, people imagined its eerie howls to be the call of the Grim Reaper.
Nothing else?
Nothing else.
That's all we get?
Yes. So I chose this Pokedex entry because I think it brings up something interesting about the world of Pokemon, which is that they have a concept of the Grim Reaper. Death isn't something that is really explored in the Pokemon universe.
Sometimes in the anime.
Sometimes in the anime, but in the games and stuff, nothing dies. It faints. There's a sort of universal healthcare, which is great. I'm not detracting from that. But the idea that they have a mythos of a Grim Reaper type figure is interesting to me, and it brings sort of, I want to explore that.
Absolutely. It sure does nothing to make this Houndoom's entry any more interesting, though, does it? In regards to Houndoom itself.
Yeah, it is sort of just like a dog if you gave it piercings.
Yeah, my word for this Pokemon was Hot Topic, because this Pokemon shops at Hot Topic.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Wow, there's not a lot here, actually. I like Houndoom. I would go so far as to say I like Houndoom, but...
I certainly don't dislike Houndoom, but I think it's still a very basic Pokemon, you know? like I said, it's just a dog with piercings.
Yeah. I'm going to actually revise my score. It was going to be higher. I'm going to give this one 3 out of 5.
I'll give it a 3 out of 5 as well, I think. Houndoom, you're all right, but just not that interesting. I'm sorry. All right, that brings us to 6 out of 10, I guess.
It's what it deserves.
It is. I'm sorry.
Next! Number 116. Horsea, the dragon Pokemon. It makes its nest in the shade of corals. If it senses danger, it spits murky ink and flees. So, Ange, this is about to get a bit rough in this room, I think. What's your first impression of this Pokemon?
My first impression of Horsea is that it's weak. It's pitiful. I don't understand why this is the dragon Pokemon. Like, it's absolutely tiny. It looks very cute and harmless and like it wouldn't hurt a fly. It's just...
Now, I will grant you that I share your grievance that this is the dragon Pokemon and is not a dragon-type Pokemon. That stings, especially because at the time it was released, it only had one evolution, which is also not a dragon-type Pokemon. It wasn't for another couple of years that they were like, oh, maybe we should have it turn into a dragon at some point. They had the dragon-type in Generation 1, but they were like, it only goes to the goofy orange man who brings people mail. You know, if I had to sum this one up in a word, I'm going to go amalgam.
Oh?
Yeah. So, Horsea, as the name might suggest, seems to be based on a seahorse.
I mean, based on the name and the general appearance, I think so.
So this seems to be already an amalgam of the idea of a sea creature that's a horse. It doesn't make sense. It's not really that much like a horse. So, you know, fish and horse already, that makes sense. It's apparently a dragon. And it spits murky ink like a squid or an octopus.
Yeah, that's a bit strange.
It can't quite pin down what it wants to be here. And like, hey, that's cool, but I'm lacking some focus here on Horsea.
It's very much another case of they took an animal from the real world and just sort of twisted it a little bit.
But quite a bit, honestly, for this one. I think that's the thing, is that on the surface, it really does just look like it's a seahorse. But then when you dig in, it's just a mess of contradictions, really.
Yeah, it has weird human-like eyes. It has a snout that spits squid ink and apparently also eats with that snout. It's just strange.
It is.
And not in a way that I appreciate.
I still appreciate it more than you, for sure. I think weak and pitiful is a cruel thing to say about Horsea, who's just trying its best not to get fished up by people while it does its 10 different roles in the ecosystem. I'm giving it a 3.5 out of 5.
I'm giving it 1 out of 5.
You are a cruel, cruel person, Ange. Well, that gets us to 4.5 out of 10. Clearly too low of a score for Horsea, but who am I to disagree? No one, just like everyone else, because these scores are perfect.
These scores are immutable facts.
Yes. Next!
This was another episode.
You have listened to it.
Now, you will pay.
If you choose to.
On our Ko-fi, you can pay your tithes to the show.
You can even boost your favourite Pokemon, so we'll review it sooner.
Ko-fi.com/rateeverymon.
The link is in the description.
All the money will go directly to us and our producer.
It will not be used to improve the show in any way.
The show is perfect.
Yes. Now listen to more. Number 546. Cottonee, the cotton puff Pokemon. Perhaps because they feel more at ease in a group, they stick to others they find. They end up looking like a cloud.
I think Cottonee is very cute.
How would you summarize your impression?
I love this bitch. It's cute, it's fluffy, it's a fairy Pokemon, and it stays in a group. These are all things that I absolutely love about Pokemon types.
I sure am seeing that I've misunderstood Cottonee my entire life, so let's just go on a journey together here. All right, so bring up your podcast album art at the moment, which will have Cottonee on it. All right, just underneath its eyes, you'll see a little ruffle. I thought that was a horrible mouth.
No.
All this time. I see now that this is a little cloud butt and that it's got a little cloud head and that it's just got 2 eyes and no visible mouth at all. This changes things. Cottonee is a lot better now that I've realized this. Cottonee's just a little friend hiding in some clouds and... Woof, I've been harsh.
I'm glad I've helped you see the light.
If I could just quickly say one word to describe this Pokemon is migratory.
Oh?
They go with the breeze, is a fun fact. They literally just form into clouds and they just swing around and go wherever.
That's so choice.
I don't know why they're only in Unova in the games. I don't know. It feels like they would have...
No wind anywhere else.
No wind. Only wind in America. They're the only ones who can afford wind. Yeah, migratory. Otherwise, yeah, I don't know. I'm in a process right now, to be honest. So maybe I don't know. I can't say a word more about this Pokemon until I've really had days and days to process my feelings of realizing it's just a little buddy hiding and not something with a horrible mouth.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And to tell you the truth, Cottonee deserves no less than days of meditation. All
right. I would score this Pokemon with this new information. I'll give it a 3.5 out of 5.
I give it 5 out of 5 stars, which brings us to 8.5 stars out of 10.
Yeah. I will say, even though I may later adjust my opinion of Cottonee, our listeners can trust that this review is completely objective and without fault.
Entirely unbiased.
All right. Next! Number 65. Alakazam, the Psy Pokemon. It is said to have an IQ of approximately 5,000. Its overflowing psychokinetic powers cause headaches to anybody nearby. Ange, when you see this Pokemon, what's conjured inside you?
I mean, the first thought that comes to me for Alakazam is really zero defense. This Pokemon looks like it could be knocked over by a strong wind.
And it can be. So, in the games, this is an incredibly frail Pokemon. It got weaker as well as the games went on. In the first game, it was at least good against special attacks. Now it's good against nothing. It is very strong, but you're actually completely correct. Incredibly frail.
Yeah, kind of min-maxed into...
Yes, which is not the worst idea.
Yeah, it's all about attack, but...
And it's fast.
What about you, Sammy? What have you got?
So if I had to summarize this Pokemon in one word, I would say mansplainer.
What?
Now, Ange, here's a tip. If ever you're at a party and someone comes up to you and says that they have an IQ of 5,000, do not listen to them. IQ is inherently, problematic. It's racist. It's flawed. It only judges certain types of intelligence. It also does not go to 5,000. That person is lying and they care too much about the fucking glitch they got on that website where they were testing their IQ. Alakazam, I'm sure, is highly intelligent, but also...
It's also a frail liar that holds spoons and causes headaches to anyone in the vicinity.
It's true. And mansplainers do cause me headaches when they start showing how much stuff they know. And I should also say, because it has zero defense, it's going to be incredibly fragile if you try and call it out on anything. However, I still love this boy. 4 out of 5.
Yeah, honestly, same. 3 out of 5 stars.
All right, 7 out of 10 for this one. Next!
Number 238. Smoochum, the Kiss Pokemon. Highly perceptive senses, Smoochum's lips are kept moist by its daily application of tree sap. So, I chose this Pokedex entry because I like the idea of Pokemon lip balm.
That's true. That's really good.
Everything else about this Pokemon, I absolutely hate. I came into this not knowing anything about Smoochum other than, its appearance, and my first thought was actually that it looked like a weird racist caricature. And then I found out some more things about its evolutionary line. So my thoughts on Smoochum are no thank you, and I'm giving it 0 stars.
Yeah, so for Smoochum, my word was conciliatory. So what you need to understand is that the Pokemon it evolves into, Jinx, came out first in the original generation of Pokemon, and it was just like this horrible racist caricature of a black person with like big red lips and like long hair. Some people compared it to like a black drag queen, which I don't know. You know, there's issues with even people taking issues with it in the way that they've talked about this Pokemon. But either way, clearly quite racist, just very caricature. And so what they did to fix this was they made Jinx purple instead of black. Here's a tip to you, Game Freak. You could have just started again, all right? A Pokemon that sings and has control of ice and has psychic powers, all great things to build a Pokemon around. You could have just said Jinx looks different now and just done a whole different Jinx instead of like changing it to purple, which everybody knows in media is just black, but we didn't want to say black. That's bad. So Smoochum then came in Generation 2, which is just really like stepping back into it to say, you know, Jinx, that Pokemon we really fucked up on, let's have another go.
Yeah, let's add to it.
Yeah, so I feel like Smoochum's goal was to kind of say, look, no, the original design wasn't racist. We were going for something completely different.
We've given you some more context where it's an entirely different thing.
So
It didn't work.
Let's break it apart. 1, bad Pokemon in general doesn't look good. 2, it's a Pokemon entirely based around kissing things that's also a baby. That's kind of weird.
Yeah.
3, I was looking this up before the show, and this one apparently is possibly inspired by like a trend amongst like Japanese schoolgirls of tanning quite dark and dyeing their hair blonde. So they like still went in on these like sexist tropes, a little bit like the duck face thing, like the Western duck face thing, like similar sort of trend, but in Japan. So they didn't really get away from the original stereotype. They hit a new one.
Yeah.
And they made a bad design that was based entirely around kissing. Now, I've chosen to give this Pokemon 2 out of 5. Let me just be clear on that. Smoochum gets 2 out of 5. Game Freak gets 0. Smoochum doesn't quite deserve all the flack, although I'm sorry that even with the controversy stripped away from you, Smoochum, you're just no good. You're nothing. It's just no good. I'm sorry.
It's just a Pokemon that's only senses are like in its lips, and its lips canonically remember everything they've ever kissed and what the taste was of that, and I hate it so much. Game Freak, fuck off.
It's not too late to start again with Smoochum and Jinx.
It's not too late to just delete your designs and find something else.
It has been 25 years, but I promise it wouldn't be that big of a deal. That brings us to a total of 2 out of 10.
Yep.
Next! Number 618. Stunfisk, the trap Pokemon. It conceals itself in the mud of the seashore. Then it waits. When prey touch it, it delivers a jolt of electricity.
Now, I don't really understand the name here. Stun, I get. It's the electricity part. It's, stunning its prey or whatever. But Fisk?
Yeah, so Fisk is actually an interesting double pun. So it's containing the word fish and the word frisk, because once it's knocked you out, it of course rummages through your pockets and steals your wallet.
I see. It's kind of a mugging that electrocutes you.
Yes.
The fish part, I just wish they'd sort of gone all the way with it. This Pokemon is ground type and electric type, but it is not in any way a water type, despite living at a seashore and having that fish part in its name.
Okay, but here's my opinion. Thank God. There are so many water Pokemon, and when you go in the water, what are you going to find? Water Pokemon. Stunfisk is a breath of fresh air. An electric ground type in the water? Why not? This is, I can see the complaint, but I love that it's not a water type. It almost communicates that this Pokemon is just here as a horrible trick. It's like, is this even its home? Who invited Stunfisk into this water? It just came and it's gonna zap you and it might eat you with that tiny, tiny mouth.
Yeah, it's kind of like an octopus beak.
Yeah.
Which is, again, an odd thing.
It's a very flat Pokemon, which you might not get from the image. Very, very flat. Wonderful. I like it. So what was your thought on this one?
My thought that I have written down is it's the perfect bear trap. Now, I first encountered this Pokemon in the games in a cave system where it looked a little bit different than the image that we're currently looking at. It was more of a green and black kind of
so that would be Galarian Stunfisk.
Yeah.
Now, we're not really discussing variants here yet. However, both of us wanted to talk about Galarian Stunfisk as well in this one, I think, because
I very much enjoy Galarian Stunfisk.
Mine is Redemption, and Redemption is I never liked this Pokemon until I saw its Galarian form. And then I realized Stunfisk is actually good the whole time. So Galarian Stunfisk takes the same concept but turns it into a metal bear trap with a Pokeball in the center. I'm kind of riffing on the original idea of like Voltorb and Electrobe as like
tricking Pokemon trainers into picking it up, basically.
Exactly, which works a lot better, but it does kind of, some of that rubs off back onto the original Stunfisk that we're looking at now. So that's important context to understanding why my relationship to Stunfisk has really been rejuvenated by the new games.
Really improved.
Yeah, this one gets 3.5 out of 5 for me.
Yeah, I'm going to give Stunfisk 3 out of 5 stars.
That brings us to 6.5 out of 10.
Good work, Stunfisk. You've really improved yourself.
Next!
Number 696. Tyrunt, the Royal Air Pokemon. Its immense jaws have enough destructive force that it can chew up an automobile. It lived 100 million years ago.
So what's it doing here now?
I don't know.
It feels important to just quickly stop on Royal Air Pokemon.
Yeah, what is that
about? Royal Air to what? To a dynasty that existed 100 million years ago, perhaps?
Perhaps. I didn't know that dinosaurs had monarchies, but I guess.
These ones do.
Yeah.
I don't think it's fit for the position given that his name is Tyrunt.
Yeah, all right. That's a good point.
I think we could pretty much be glad that it died before that time and is now revived in the utopian democracy of the Pokemon world. Thank God. What's your impression of this boy?
Dinosaur.
Dinosaur.
Yeah, it's very much just a dinosaur theme, which the species doesn't really fit. It is another detractor for it, I think.
It's rough, yeah. I went with small dog syndrome.
What does that mean?
Okay, so small dog syndrome is that, like, smaller dogs tend to be more aggressive because they've got something to prove, basically. Whereas bigger dogs chill out because they know less things are a threat to them. This boy looks very small, but looks very angry.
True.
And I think that's what encourages it to, for instance, lead its monarchies into dictatorships and such. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, not a favorable look at this Pokemon. I could go as low as actually 2 out of 5.
All right. Well, I'll give it a 3 out of 5, which brings us to 5 out of 10 stars for Tyrunt.
Next!
Number 446. Munchlax, the big eater Pokemon. It needs to consume its own weight in food every day. As far as flavor is concerned, it's indifferent. This is a Pokemon that I find uniquely terrifying just because Sammy and I once played a TTRPG game as Pokemon where Sammy played a Pokemon and ate all of our enemies.
Yeah, I was a Munchlax and I just kept eating, like, good and bad, just really any NPC that got in my way.
Yes.
Which is what Munchlax would do. As far as flavor is concerned, it's indifferent.
Yeah. As far as morality is concerned, Sammy's Munchlax was indifferent.
Yes, and these wounds are fresh because we played that game on the same day that we came up with this podcast.
It was like a week ago.
It was less. This was so quick. All right. Well, if I had to describe this Pokemon in one word, it would be relatable.
Yeah, no question as to why.
Munchlax just loves to eat. Now, a lot of pre-evolutions fall into this problem where they just are redundant. There's no reason for them to exist because they don't explore any new ground that the evolution doesn't. Munchlax is a pre-evolution of Snorlax and captures a different side to Snorlax. So Snorlax is sleeping all the time and just gets up for bouts of violence, whereas Munchlax, as far as we can see, is not a sleepy boy. It's just hungry and it just wants to eat and it's pretty chirpy about it. And I just think that that's like a really fresh angle on like what the Munchlax Snorlax life cycle is. And it's a little bit like going to like Christmas dinner. You start out the night as a Munchlax. You're happy, you're chirpy, you're eating everything. By the end of the night, you're a Snorlax on the couch, only getting up for occasional bouts of violence.
Yeah.
Great storytelling here in Munchlax, I would say.
Fantastic. I love the shaggy little dress it's wearing as well.
Yes, it's great that it's a dress.
All right, I'm going to give Munchlax, despite my negative preconceptions, I am going to give Munchlax 3 out of 5 stars.
And I'm going to give it 4.5 out of 5 stars.
All right, that brings us to a total of 7.5 stars out of 10 for Munchlax.
Next! Number 38. Ninetales, the fox Pokemon. Legend has it that Ninetales came into being when 9 wizards possessing sacred powers... Alright, let's try again. Legend... Alright, this was going to be clean edge, don't worry.
I'm keeping this in.
Yeah, fair enough. Legend has it that Ninetales came into being when 9 wizards possessing sacred powers merged into one. This Pokemon is highly intelligent. It can understand human speech. I'd just like to lead off by saying that this Pokedex entry was by no means an outlier in the set. I did not just find the weirdest one. I had like 5 different options of how I wanted this to be phrased. Most of the other ones, they were saints rather than wizards, but what is a saint but a wizard with sacred powers?
It's not a religious wizard.
Yes, indeed. Wow.
This is a lot. If we're taking this legend as being truth, are all Ninetales just coming into existence when 9 wizards merge into one, or are just like...
No, so I do think in this case that the first Ninetales was made by the 9 wizards, and then the rest of the Ninetales were made by a regular old boning.
If there was only one Ninetales, how?
Ditto.
Ah.
Yeah. Pokemon's got the answers for you on this one. So it's made of 9 wizards, and it can understand human speech.
Why?
It almost seems redundant to ask you for your first impression now, but before this revelation hit you, Ange, what would you have said about Ninetales?
I would have said, I really like fox-type kind of Pokemon, and...
It doesn't matter anymore, does it?
I'm just stunned. I'm genuinely just blown away by this revelation.
Now, there are other Pokedex entries that I think are just straight up fake. I see no evidence of this one. There's nothing actually contradictory here, just surprising. My word for this Pokemon was transcendent. Not a word more needs to be said about that. It clearly is. I think I'm going to go 5 out of 5, actually.
I'm still so confused. Why did 9 wizards merge into one to become a Ninetales?
What was their goal? You're so right. I didn't even think of this angle. I guess to be a sick-ass Pokemon.
I guess.
What's the point of being a wizard in the world of Pokemon? The Pokemon are just out there doing your thing.
Why would you want to be 1/9 of a wizard?
Oh my golly.
They had sacred powers.
So if that one Ninetales then did breed and make all the other Vulpix and Ninetales, are the wizards just split and like further diluted with every generation?
I don't like that.
No, or do like new wizards sometimes come in to top up the Ninetales pool? Maybe they like hunt down wizards and eat them. Ninetales is also incredibly vengeful and has been alive for 1,000 years. That's some other information you might find useful.
I do find that useful.
If you touch its tails, it will curse you for 1,000 years.
Yeah.
Probably because they're wizards.
Probably. In light of the news that Ninetales is incredibly vengeful, I'm going to go 5 stars.
That brings us to a total of 10 out of 10.
Incredible.
Ninetales can get it. Next!